Yesterday we learnt about all these timer related events, how to handle the timer and work with various timer events. So we will see some more examples. So while designing any application, while creating an application, we will put these timers in different examples. So actually, as I told you, actually there are ready-made such libraries. Generally, people use them. We will see all such third-party libraries. Actually, you can go to this website npmjs.com. You can search here React Loader. So when you search for React Loader, you see React Spinner, Content Loader. These are also popular actually. Means people don't want to design a loader, they want to just use it. Yesterday we created a loader with some timer events, incrementations and all. Projects do is they are ready-made loaders, they use them. So like you see, there is a React Spinner. So this React Spinner, they provide how to install, how to use the spinner. And what is advantage is they already have some CSS properties. You have to customize, you have to implement. So they will give you all the functionalities. What advantage here is this is ready made. That means you don't write any logic much, already designed, just add to your project. Such all third party components we will see in the next concept when we learn about built-in components of React. We have a library called Material UI. Suppose you want button, you want scrollers, all these are ready-made. Instead of using Bootstrap, you can try this React Material. We can use it. So, but we learned how to design manual using the timer events. Next, important. Now you are completely aware of various techniques of React component. Actually, this is related to component. You learned how data binding works. So style binding works, class binding works, event binding works, right? How to create and configure the forms. We learned about validations, how we can manage them. So these are all related to component we learned. So one more extra you need to know about component is, so you need to know about component properties. That is another basic thing. Actually, component properties are nothing but you have a you have a component called image. So image is a component. It have a property called SRs. It have a property called width. It have a property called border. These are all properties. What is the purpose of properties? What is the purpose of properties? They are used to, properties are used to modify a component. That means without SRC, what IMG will return? Without SRC, IMG will return an empty container. and we modify that empty container with an image by using SRs. What will be the width of image? The width of image will be the size of image. How much image size is there? The same size is maintained for IMG also. But we are modifying that size by writing our own width. That means if you don't use width, is there no width for image? Image have width, image have height. It will automatically adapt the original width and height. You want to modify, then you have to use width, height. We have to use border. So what is the purpose of property? It is used to modify the component, customize component. Why we are designing component? To to enable reusability, maintainability, testability. Reusability means to use as it is everywhere. No, we can even customize according to requirements. It's not just to use as it is. Means we need a component which need to be customized. For example, this is not a new thing. Suppose you have some bootstrap. This is bootstrap. In bootstrap, when we go to the documents, you see bootstrap have
Recording in progress.
means React is not introducing this concept. Component based designs are very common in web development. We already working with these type of things every day. So the point is these components they provide, we can import and use in our project. Will you use exactly how they provide? No. We customize according to our requirement. How that is possible? That is possible by using properties. That means every component have properties. By using the properties, you can customize the component. So what are component properties? So a property is used to customize component. A property is used to customize component. You can modify a component with properties. You can modify a component with properties. So what is the point here is JSX elements can be configured with a set of properties which allow to reuse and customize component according to state and the situation. That is the point. According to the state and situation. So that is the purpose of properties actually. So the purpose of properties. Now, how to design a component which can take properties? That means actually you are designing function and home, and this function is returning some JSX. It is returning some JSX. This is an empty container, right? This is a JSX element. How to design JSX element we learned. This is a JSX element. It is a JSX element. Now the concept is this component, this component is not having any properties. So that means this is a component without properties. That means you have to use this component. You have to use this component as it is, home, like this. There are no properties for this component. Now in JavaScript you learned how to create a function. Now tell me in JavaScript how a function can be modified. How a function can be modified. Modified means how it can change its functionality. A function is defined with certain functionality. How you can make the function to change its functionality? A function can perform specific functionality. How you can make it to change its functionality? For that, you have learned parameters. If anybody asked you what is the purpose of a parameter in a function, usually parameter purpose is to modify the function. So a parameter allows to modify the function. So you can modify the function using parameters. Why we need parameterized function? Not for passing parameters, that is for modifying the functions. A function can be modified by using parameters. For example, you return some function, some print. So for where I less than 10 and I plus plus. So this is a function written to print some 10 numbers, just roughly. Now I want to print 15 numbers. Function because it prints always 10. I want 5 numbers, I want 15, I want 25, I want 100. I can't use this function because it always prints 10. Then how you can design a function which can change? That means we allow the parameters here, like how many, am I right? And this parameter we will use here. Now what is the purpose of a parameter in a function? Modify the function. The function parameters are used to modify the function. Same, a component without parameters means a component without properties. So if anyone asks like how a component can have properties, the parameters are nothing but properties. Properties. That means usually a component can configure properties. A component can configure properties using parameters. using parameters if it is a function component, because class component is different. Class component cannot take parameters, but we can make the class to take parameters. How? Through a constructor. Constructors. Later about classes we will discuss. Currently, a component can configure properties using parameters. So that means, and here in JavaScript you learned parameters can be single parameter, multiple parameters, rest parameter. You can have even spread approach. So parameter can be any type, any number. Component that means a component parameter object type means with key and value. With key and value. With key and value. So not multiple, you can define multiple keys is as a property. So that means how you define here syntactically. So function, some home, params, props.
हाँ जय जय आज 5 बजे शाम में आप आएंगे मंदिर पे, ठीक ना? और सब सामान
Recording in progress.
So props is a type. It is an object type. Object type means you have a key and value collection. And actually, keys are name. You can give any name for a key. And what name you give, the same name you have to use. That means now how to access the component home and how to define its property. You have to use key equal to value. That's how we need to define. That means the value that you defined here, it will be stored under the reference of this key. Like this props object can have any number of keys. That props object can have any number of keys. You can have different types of keys. For example, let's see how we can design a component with properties. Designing a component with properties so that we can customize according. For example, suppose we want to design a toolbar. We want to create a toolbar. Then in toolbar, what should be the company name and what should be the items in the menu? These all decided by the people who are using this requirement. You need to just provide toolbar. In the toolbar, what should be the content, they will decide. You need to provide the markup, styles, everything, So same, like we have a bootstrap. They will provide a nav bar. So in the components, suppose we have a nav bar. So this is a component they provide. This is a navbar component. So this is a navbar component. Now, in this component, what should be the title? What should be the items that they will decide according to their requirements? They will mention. Only design you need to provide, and even design also colors, effects they can change. If they want, they can change the theme of this toolbar. That means even styles effects also can change. You see, these people provided some properties like data BS theme, and this property when applied with dark, then automatically turns to a dark theme like this. That means navbar is a component in that database theme is a property. So that is a property and it takes a value according to that it will modify it. So how these are created? Let's see how to create a reusable component for us. So we will go to close all this. We will go to our components. Let's say actually these are all components only. We will add another folder in SRC. In SRC, I will add a folder called component library. That is the folder. I'm just adding a component library folder. In this, we will keep all the reusable components that we want. The reusable components that we want. So, what we will do in the component library, we will add a folder and we will say like so react navbar. We are creating a react navbar component. Okay, and in this we have a new folder. Yeah, in this we have a file react navbar.jsx. Okay, now here we are creating export function react navbar. This react navbar have to return a navbar. I am designing a nav. That's the nav. For this nav, we need some design. So that means this nav have three sections. Suppose that means that is one section, and here we will put a and here company name should come. We will keep a class heading 3. Their company name should come. And what should be the company name that they will decide. So in the next here, in this second container, here we want the collection of items as links. We want collection of items as links. That means home, about, what they want. That also divided by the decided by them. They will decide which one to come. Right? Okay. Third one, here we some shortcut buttons, sign in note button, something, whatever they can design. Or we want a search bar or something. Then what we have to do here, suppose here we are adding a div. Suppose search bar is standard. We will keep an input type text class as form control. Okay, and we have a button class bi search and btn warning something. So this is the search bar we given and with a class input group. Okay, this is a navbar we are having. And what should be the title? What should be the items? We will put a class name. So padding is 3, and we will put some margin also some 2. All directions we are defining. So that's it. We will add some border and border 1, something like this. Now what should be the title? That will be decided. Then what we will do here, that is a formal parameter. It can be anything. Function parameters are formal. Formal name can be anything. Any name you give, but it represents properties. And it is what type? Object. So here in the span, we want the props. It's an object. We want a dynamic key called some brand name. Brand name. Brand name is a key. Brand name is a key. That means now the navbar is having a property called brand name. That brand name will be displayed here. Okay. Another one. Now, in the second container, we will add deflex and justify content between. Okay. In the second container, I want to display items as links I want to generate. And the items is a collection of items. Collection of items. Then we will use props dot menu items. Menu items is another property, but it is a array. That means we will map every item. We will read every item. And for every item, we are going to generate a span. And this span will have the item here in the form of suppose a link, in the form of a link, and the span, every span will have a class. So margin e some 3, some gap. So that is the option that we created. That means it is going to generate a link. This link appearance you want anyway, you can define. So usually now our component is having two properties. One is brand name, another one is menu items. Okay, where you want to use this navbar? So I want to use here somewhere. I want to use the navbar somewhere here. Then what we will do is, let's go currently which one is in startup. In the startup there is progress demo. We will go to progress demo. We have a progress demo component. In this progress demo component, we want to use that navbar here. Actually, this is already designed with some. We will do another div. And here having some header. import the component. That means React navbar component.
बिना तेल के पैसा नहीं है तेलो नहीं बारात जाएगा गाड़ी तो पटना से आदमी जाएगा पटना से पहुंच जाएंगे 19 गाड़ी हो पर कर दो कि दे दो गाड़ी ना गाड़ी कर लो हमरा 1500 रुपए देला दे दे 1500 रुपए पक्का डन है तो सस्ता हां तो ही कि जो पहले ही कर दे गाड़ी तो एगो जगह दूरा पर परमानेंट बुक कर देना नहीं ना पांच आदमी दे दे चलना है छो है ना होता 3 2 5 भी चलो दिन होता मट्टी बढ़िया हां ई ना थोड़ा थोड़ा छोड़ के ना पांच गो हमरा लेके ना दोनों के साथ ड्राइवर दे सका ही जब तुम वही आदमी छोड़ा तो तेले में अपने नाम के अच्छा तो हाँ हुई दो गो आगे 3 गो पीछे देखिए ना मार्च लगाएंगे वहां देखो ना कौन चाहिए बोला हो रहा है ना तो गाड़ी आएगा ये दानापुर में दानापुर जम्मू शुरू पल्लो जाम लगा लाठी चलो रात को फोन एक लाठी चलियो और एक का तरवा काट ना वहीं जी डायरेक्ट 50 के भी होला
Recording in progress.
That means now it is necessary that everybody have to use the same. No, they can be a different brand name. So technically here the concept, colors, effects, everything you can change. How you can change? So for example, now this navbar should able to change its appearance. Then usually these classes also we can dynamically access. We can configure these classes dynamically. Certain classes are fixed and certain classes we can accept dynamically and can add them. That means usually, suppose we have these are the classes and it is having, you can even apply style, inline style. Still object will apply some effects. Suppose you see here, suppose we are using like we will define how you can make this a string which allows later concatenation. That means what you can do here, we can put dynamically we are configuring a string and this string can accept. That means we are adding what it can accept. Can accept props dot theme name. That means it is accepting a theme name. And remember, JavaScript problem. What is problem in JavaScript? Every parameter is mandatory. Every parameter is mandatory. So this is very important. Every parameter is compulsory. And if you don't pass any parameter, then usually what happens? It will return undefined. In JavaScript, optional, no. Order dependency is there, optional. Here there is no problem of order dependency, but every parameter is mandatory. That means now here we need to pass that here. We need to define this theme name. That means let's pass the theme here. Okay. What is the theme name here? Suppose I am giving, so theme name is equal to, so suppose we can apply our own themes, like suppose say BG what success. BG success is the theme name. That means it will display that. That is the theme name. And we are using like BG, some dark is the theme name. That means it will apply that. And text white, we are applying the theme. That means it should display. So that means you can create a toolbar which can change itself according to your requirement. Right? That means now see here. Suppose I am adding another nav bar. This time we are changing the items here. That means we have something like title. We changed this as suppose tutorials, and we have like home. We have like some Java. So we have like .NET. So we have like some React, something like this. So, and we can add more. That means we have like some Angular. So we have like some blocks. And you can see it will get and its theme should be different. Suppose PG some danger, that is the theme, and it uses that there. That means you are creating a component, so which can be customized, reusable, customizable components. That's what usually we configure through properties. And property can be any type. Property can be any type. So, but actually property keys can be any type. Generally property is always what type? Object. If anyone asks, can we have multiple properties? You can have multiple properties, but all those properties are configured as keys in an object. That means you cannot have multiple parameters. You can have only one parameter that refers to properties. And that parameter is an object type. We can manage this. So this is actually one option how it works. This is an example, the component with the properties. So why we need a component with properties? So that it allows us to customize according to the requirement. So example, first we are adding a folder that is a component library. Then add folder for React now. So in that React nowbar.jsx, I will copy this code and you can inject and component in any component. That means suppose you have some home.jsx, or we created previously what progress bar, progress demo dot what jsx. In that I am just copying this. Just I am copying this. In that lot of additional things are there, but I am just importing the navbar component and I am using the component here. So we are implementing that component in the header. The component is present. Component is different. Component. When you are designing the component, it is not just changing particular colors and effects or number of items. A complete layout can change. a complete layout can change. That means, for example, a component can change its complete layout. For example, I want to design a login screen. So, and that login screen should completely change depending on which login you are creating for. Admin login, user login, like that. If it is an admin login, it should have different contents. And if it is user login, then it should have different contents. That means, will you design two logins? No. Then how one login can change completely? It's not about title. The more controls must be added. Some more additional content must be added. How you can manage that? This is what people call it as conditional rendering. These are all technical words. That means these are the technical words for interviews. In interviews, they ask all these technical words. Like, do you know conditional rendering in React? It's not a special thing. Every component uses conditional renders. That means situation wise, if a component is changing, then it is conditional rendering. That means it renders different content for that situation. So that means usually it is rendering same, but if it can render different, that depends on that. Conditional rendering is nothing but, suppose if anybody asked you a question like, can a function have multiple returns? So suppose we have a function. So in this function, can we have multiple returns? Can a function have multiple returns? It can have multiple returns, but all it will not return. It will decide according to the situation. That means, can a function be defined with multiple returns? Yes, it can be defined with multiple returns. And which one it returns, that will be decided according to the situation. So that means conditionally you can return A or you can return B. You can define with multiple return, but a condition decides which one to return. That's what actually conditional rendering. Conditional rendering, that means what to render, that will be decided, right? That is decided. So generally, how it is rendered, how it is displayed, we will see the point. For example, see, we want in the component concept only, suppose we want some data to be displayed like this. Suppose if data is coming from any source, that means some data is coming, and this data we need to access and display. One, I want to display the data in a tabular form. Data must be displayed in a tabular form. Usually people call it as grid. Data must be displayed in a tabular form. That means we want a grid. We want a grid. And the same data can be displayed in another form, that is card. That means we want card style. We want card style, not grid style. Same data must be in cards and in grids. Now, will you design? Actually, Bootstrap have two different components. Bootstrap have a table component and Bootstrap have a card component. That means one for displaying data in rows and columns, another for displaying in card style. Now, can one component act like that? That means can one component can handle like this, like a grid, like a card. That means same data, but user will decide he wants in a card style or he wants in a tabular style. We can do that. Conditionally, we can render. First, basic thing is first you should know how to design these cards, means or these grids. That's not easy. It takes little complex logic to understand and handle. I will give you, you try, you test how much you can manage. See, first I will give an example. You tell me how it can be done. So what we want to do is we want to design a grid component. We want to design a grid component. I will add a new folder, react grid. Okay, I will add here react grid dot jsx. Grid components are very popular in web development. Any software technology, they depend a lot of on grids. That means grids responsibility is to present data in a tabular form, providing facilities like filtering, sorting, searching, adding, inserting, updating, deleting. That means in any component library, if you go, the first priority is for grids. These days, when you go to companies, first majority of companies will ask you for two components very popularly. One is a dashboard, another one is grid. Dashboard means any user logs on into his account, a dashboard should come which shows the summary of his activities. In every business application, his dashboard is mandated. You opened a shopping site, in that your dashboard will open when you log in. It shows what you recently viewed, what you recently searched, and what are your interests. And majority of the interviews of React, they have this dashboard design. That means they ask like, design, can you design a dashboard? They will give you even a prototype. They will say that here these things should come with some graph type formats and all. So the point is, grids and dashboards are very popular. What is grid? It will display data in a tabular form. Okay, let's do one thing. Export function. This is React grid. So return, and here we need to design a grid. So this is container fluid. Okay. In this we want a table. So that means we want to design a table. And table will have some classes. Table hover, like that. Now the point is, in this table will be a caption. This caption decides for which purpose this table you are using for. That means now here we will take properties and it will have a caption. Properties is an object. Here we have to put that caption, am I right? That means props have a key called what? Caption. props have a key called caption. This will decide what should be the caption of the table. That means now wherever you want to use this, you have to put a caption. Okay. This is easy actually. Caption is easy. Okay, let's go. Currently this progress demo is in running. You can add any another one sample. For example, here I want to use, I will put some section. Okay, so here I will put some grid demo. Okay. And what we want here is, in this we want a table. Then see what we are doing. We are using React grid component we are importing. This React grid is expecting caption. Caption. And see the caption. What is the caption? Caption is nothing but product details and updated. So some Jan 2024. And you can see that. So there is a caption here. There is a caption. But here the key concept is, well, caption is there. Caption is coming. In table, we go, we will write here T head, head section. Now tell me how you will accept the headers. That means what should be the columns. I will show you one point here. See, we have an array of objects. Array of object have a name. This is TV. And array of object have a some price. Some price. So it is having some stock, or say some rating 4.5. Like this we are having some data. This is object. Like this there can be several objects. I want these keys to be the headers. In the heading. Now I will try to access this by a array called props dot fields. These fields should contain these keys as values. Tell me in JavaScript how you can do that. In JavaScript, how to access the collection of all the keys in an object. Remember in JSX you cannot use for in, for off. JSX will not allow any coding blocks, no? It will allow only functions. Keys. How you access the keys in an object, not the values. How to read the keys in an object. If you have learned object type, how do we read all the keys from an object? We have object.keys method. There is an object.keys, which is an array of what? Keys. Which is an array of keys. That means you can read all the keys by using this. If it is normal, you can manage. That means if it is a normal array, you can easily handle that. That means what should be this heading? Fields. First, suppose this should be fields. We will accept all the fields collection. we will accept all the fields collection. Later we will make it little complex. Fields like a collection of array, for example. So what we will do here, props dot fields. Fields is dot map. Just roughly we are reading like an array, and it will read every field. For every field we have to generate a th. In the th we have to display the field. That means that is the fields array. Now it is expecting. You see now error because every parameter is mandatory. You cannot keep it empty. So whenever you access this grid, into the grid we need to pass what? Fields. Fields is an array. Here we have like name, we have like price, and we have like some other option. What is it? Suppose rating. I am defining like this. Then it is going to display them here. So it is going to display the name, price, and rating. And for this grid, for table, we will add a class called caption top. Usually caption will be displayed at the top. Now here another, this is the key point here, challenge is we need t body. This body should generate the rows with columns. How many rows it should have? That depends on how many data he pass. How many columns it should have? That also depends on how much data he pass. That means remember, you know now what you have to do. You have to repeat a row. In that row you have to repeat a cell. First you need to repeat the rows, and in that row you need to repeat those cells. The cell should be for every value in a object, and row is for every record in an array. That means what we have to do now is, first we are expecting another one here. What we are expecting is, we are expecting props dot data, fields and data. Okay, in the data, what you are expecting? Data is an array. Array means we have to use what? Map. We will read every item. Okay, for every item, what we have to do is, we have to generate a row. For every item, we are generating a row, right? And you know, generally, when you are repeating, you have to use a key. Repeating should have a key, na? Field name and all this. Okay. Now, you are repeating a row for every item. Now, in this, every item is what type? Every item is an object type. Every item is an object type. For every key inside this object, you need to generate a cell. But you should not display the key, you should display its value. That means, for example, in this object, you have name, TV. So we have price, some price like this. So we have rating like this. Now what should happen is, for every key, a cell should be generated. But the key should not display, its value should display. How you generate a cell for every key? How many keys will be there? We don't know. How many keys will be there? We don't know. We have to read every key. So then we can use object dot keys. We can use object dot keys method. Keys. Binding, na? We have to use object dot keys. This is O uppercase. Yeah, object dot keys method. Which object related keys? That item related keys. This is an object, am I right? This object related keys. Okay, what it is? It is an array. All the keys are written like an array. Then we have to use a map. We have to read every key. And for every key, what we need to do? For every key, we need to create a cell. Okay, in that cell, what you want to display, not the key. We have to use the value of the key. Then item of key. Am I right? Item of key. That means this is how we are generating the data. Generating the data. So now what is the first iterator here? It is reading. I will give here key. It is reading for every item. And it is reading every item value and generating a cell. That means for every item, a row is created, and every key in that item, a cell is generated. That means now you have a customized table, so you need to pass the data also into it. Fields. Remember, I am hard coding here, but generally what you do, declare one state or create one variable, in that store some data and directly pass the variable here. You don't need to write here. I'm just temporarily writing here. What is it? Data. Data is an array of what? Objects. In that we have like name, so we have like price, and we have like rating. So that is what we are defining, and you can see it is going to generate the data here. That means we created a grid, and here we are adding another object, so name, and another object price, and another object some rating, some 3.2, and you can see another row is added. Now the grid is designed in such a way that it will customize according to your requirements. That means this is a grid you designed for products. Suppose I want a grid for employees. That means what we will do here, I will create another heading, employee data. Am I right? And we want to display in a React grid. And what will be the caption? Caption is like employee details, employee details. So some recently viewed. So we say Jan 2024 like this. And what are the fields? As of now, we are hard coding these fields. It is having like employee first name. It will have like last name. We have like some, these two are enough, suppose. And we need some data for employees. That means we have data. It is an array of objects. We have first name. So first name, some Raj, and some last names like, so some Kumar, something like this. And you see the data for employee data is different. That means we have a grid for different purpose. That means for different data. You can design for different data. And the key concept is not just designing. And conditional rendering means what? It should able to change the layout completely. That means, for example, here I will put a drop down, and here I will put a option like view as grid or card. When user selects a grid, this view should come. When user selects a card, it should change into cards. That means it should not be a table anymore. That means in one situation it is rendering table, in another situation it is going to render cards. It is going to render the cards. How you define that? How you configure? That means how you can change a component to render completely different. So now what we will do is into the props here. Let's see here now. Suppose what we are doing, this return is returning this JSX. Am I right? That return is returning the JSX. I'm writing a condition like if props dot layout is equal to grid. It is a grid. If it is a grid, then this should be returned. It should return this. It should return this. And else, if it is not, then it should return a container here. So it should be like a card style. That means it should return like a card style. That means suppose class name dflex flex wrap. So margin padding 2 something, margin 2 something. And here we need to design a card for every product. How you design a card for every product? That means what we will do, props dot what, data dot what, map. That means the map, and here we will read every item. For every item, suppose we are creating a card div, and what this div, here so many points are there, it's not done, just basic point I'm explaining here, class name. So here we need to put that. And what this is as what card, margin 2, padding 2. And suppose temporarily here I will keep a heading. So here I need to get the card title. Here it's not done, so much work is there, right? I'm just giving here. Suppose temporarily I will keep a title here, right? That means now what is the point here? You see, that is the title. Why it is showing like a title? Because layout is not decided. Layout is not decided, then it is showing a card. Then what we do is, for the first one, this one, for first grid, we will use what? Layout. Layout is grid type. Layout is grid type for first one. Then it is going to render a table. And if you don't mention the layout, by default it is a card type. Card type. Now your job, can you design a card for every item and display? You try that. That's your task. That means now you try designing a card for every item. Every item. But challenging here is every item, which key it will have, we don't know. How you will put the title? How you will put a title here? Are you sure that the item is going to have name? Then how? That means you need to again create a map which reads every key. We know the keys, and those keys must be displayed here. Title, card header, card footer, like. That means I'm just designing here. Actually, this should be in a div. I'll just keep a design. Now class name, we have a card header. And here we have some item dot name. This is suppose actually item dot first name. Suppose we are giving like this. That means what it has to do is that first name will come. But how do you know that everybody have first name? How do you know that everybody have first name? This cannot be there. It should be a dynamic key. You should be a dynamic key, right? You need to access a dynamic key. So I will give div here, suppose div, and the class name, some card footer. Suppose I kept a button, some say login, and here class btn primary w100, and every card will have some style. So style is having some width. So width is some like 200 pixel. And you see, these are the cards here we are having. Now the point is, the key concept is, this is what you need to dynamically generate. That means how do we know that which keys are present? You need to decide that. You need to try. And this is what people call this as conditional rendering. Conditional rendering means anywhere at any point of presenting content, you can decide which one to present. A component is not necessary to render the same thing every time. A component can render different contents. That is possible through this conditional approach. So this is conditional rendering, how you can manage. So what is the concept? That means a component can render different content, can render different content. It can be configured with multiple return statements. It can be configured with multiple return statements. However, component can return only one JSX fragment. The process of rendering various JSX fragments according to state and situation is known as conditional rendering. Conditional rendering, that is the concept. That means you have a function with a component props. That means if props dot key is matching, you can use any condition. Some value, then it will return a fragment. Else it returns another fragment. That's how we decide what to render and configure.
ये वाला तो रिकॉर्ड करेंगे ना कम से कम तो उसे पुनवा जैसे रिकॉर्ड ना होगा ना
So how we can create reusable components, customizable components, that is through component properties. So react grid.jsx. 26. So this is the example of grid. I'm giving this example here. And in this implementation, you can implement anywhere. I'm just giving the implementation in some progress demo.js. So that is the approach. So you have components with the properties. Remember, this is the way of using components in a function, properties in a function. Properties in a class have a different approach that you will see later how to it. Now, another major concept, once you know about these two, now we need to understand about component hooks. So what are the hooks and how these hooks work? This is where so many questions also will come, like how you transport data from one component to another. We are creating reusable components. How do we transport data from component to component? What is the problem in data transportation? And for that, what are the various hooks available? Hooks is a new concept. From React 18, they introduced these hooks, which are not possible to use in classes. These are only for functions. And what are these hooks? That we will see in next session. Tomorrow we will do that. Tomorrow we will learn about various hooks. Already we saw some, like use state, use effects, right? But you will see some more important built-in hooks available in React that we'll see in next session. Okay, right?
का खोल खाल कर रही काहे कर रही है ये तो यार काल आई सब काल आ 10 दूर एक तो ले लिया तो दूसरा करके लाए तो काम कर रहा है